what shapes the self-concept? It might be biological roots, it could be personality traits, it could also be perspectives based on our social concepts. How others view us is often a way that our self concept can be shaped. How we become aware of some of those characteristics that help us to identify who we are, how we label ourselves, and maybe why. One of the ways in which social experiences can shape our self awareness and our self concept is through what's called reflective appraisal. Reflective appraisal is a situation in which we develop our self concept that reflects the way that we believe other people see us. So we reflect our appraisal of ourselves based on that which others emit to us. So, for example, we might have a significant other in our life, and when we define someone as a significant other, it does not necessarily mean that they are a romantic partner of ours. Instead, it is the opinion of someone we especially value, and those significant others significantly impact how we see ourselves. Through reflective appraisal and social comparison, which is our next idea of social impact on self awareness, we come to label ourselves in certain ways. Whereas reflective appraisal is a specific reflection of our labels of ourselves based on what we are seeing from other people, social comparison is not necessarily how we believe others see us, but how we feel we compare to others. So we evaluate ourselves in terms of how we compare to a group or a culture or our general family, that kind of thing. So do we see ourselves as superior or inferior to a group? Or are we the same or different compared to a set of people? If you think about it, how do you determine whether or not you are, quote, pretty, or, quote, intelligent, or tall, or short? How do you determine whether or not you are those labels? You determine them by social comparison. You determine that you are tall based on those around you. When you say that you are intelligent, in one situation, you will compare yourself to those around you who maybe don't have quite the intellect you do. And in a completely different situation, you may see yourself as not intelligent or equal to those around you because of that group of people. So you are comparing yourself to others based on those experiences. Now look back at some of the traits you might use to label yourself. Do you see anything that might have come from reflective appraisal or social comparison? You might want to answer questions like who or what influenced this. So maybe you labeled yourself as pretty, or maybe you labeled yourself as outgoing. Who or what influenced you to see yourself in that way? Who influenced you or what influenced you to determine that you were considered outgoing? Or maybe it's a personality trait like introverted or extroverted. Which situation, what circumstance, or what group of people made you determine that you were that way? Was it through reflective appraisal or social comparison? And if so, are you happy with that? Are you okay with labeling yourself in that way? Why or why not are you happy with that? What impacts you in that manner? This is something that you have to keep in mind when you are deciding how you are going to interpret the self-concept labels that you have created. We also have what is called the perceived self and the presenting self. The perceived self is the definition you have of who you are based on your own perceptions. You perceive yourself to be a certain way. You perceive yourself as all of these things. So when you maybe create a list of labels for yourself, that is your perceived self. Sometimes they're positive, sometimes they're negative. It depends on your perceptions. Your perceived self is that in which you perceive yourself to be based on your own experiences and perceptions. That being said, we also have what's called presenting self. In some situations, we will present ourselves to be a certain way based on our audience. If you've ever thought of something like social media, Facebook, Twitter, and the like, oftentimes you see a one line of a perception, one direction, one personality. Whereas you might be more multifaceted. Maybe you see only positive traits represented in a social media account. Maybe you see only negative traits because that person is trying to get sympathy. That is a presenting self. How you present yourself to your audience. Maybe you have always said to yourself, I am one way at school or at work, but I'm a completely different way at home with my family and friends. That would be considered presenting self. That is a part of self-awareness and self-concept. It's how we shape who we are and how we see ourselves.